Welcome to a very special edition of the Twilight Zone After Hours. I am Steve.
I'm Kelly.
And we are here on location filming arguably the most exciting episode of the Twilight Zone we've ever done. One of the things that's famous about the Twilight Zone is they filmed almost exclusively on the MGM lot in Hollywood. Almost never did they leave that lot to film, and if they did, those locations most definitely don't exist today, except for one. So we're gonna take you on a cool trip right now. What do you think? We should walk around?
Let's take a little walk.
About 100 yards over the rim. Come on, Sarah, you laughing at the car at the perfect time was fucking hilarious.
You're traveling through another dimension. A dimension not only of sight and sound, but of Twilight Zone reviews. A journey into a wondrous land of intoxication where a father, son, and guest drink and retell episodes of the Twilight Zone.
There is a fifth dimension.
Stay tuned because your next stop is the Twilight Zone After Hours.
The Twilight Zone.
So we're here in Olancha, Grant, California, which is, how far away are we from like LA? We're 7.5 hours from Phoenix.
We're 5 hours from civilization in any direction.
Yeah, we're in
basically.
the middle of nowhere. But to get into the story of this building and where we're at, we're gonna cut to Sarah, who's gonna give us a background of the history of this building. Sarah, take it away.
Please don't put this in the bloopers. I know you will. This unique roadside piece of cinema history dates back to around 1948, when it first opened as a simple cafe along Highway 395 near Olancha, California. Its original name beyond cafe is unclear. In the early 1950s, Gene Christensen purchased the property and operated it as the Southern Inyo Garage and Store. By 1957, the structure was remodeled and converted back into a cafe, possibly under the name Frank and Ann's Airflite Cafe. Its most notable moment came in 1961, when it appeared prominently in the Twilight Zone episode 100 Yards Over the Rim, starring Cliff Robertson. For the show, it was renamed Joe's Airflite Cafe, serving as the key setting where a pioneer from the 1840s steps into the modern world. After filming, the building became known as the Stagecoach Inn. It continued operating as a restaurant until closing around 1975. It was then repurposed as a market, which ran for many years before eventually shutting down. For some time now, the building has remained largely unused, aside from occasional storage, and stands as a quiet relic of the highway's past.
All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna walk around. We have to be very cautious not to go by these cones, but as you can see, we're next to the Airflite Cafe, Joe's Airflite Cafe, from arguably my favorite episode of all time, Season 2, Episode 23, 100 Yards Over the Rim. Let's go take a look and see what it's like up close today. So as you can see, it's kept the same aesthetic, the same famous fin. Right over here was the signage.
The only thing missing from the original are the lack of trees. In that original, it's desert all around it. And this is covered with trees.
There were gas pumps out front, but as you can see, the actual structure is still exactly the way it was in the show. The painting is dilapidated, the structure, but look at the fin. It looks so great. It's incredible that we're here. Apparently the owner lives on site, and because this is kind of a popular attraction, we're not allowed to get very close without being, yelled at. So we're gonna respect that boundaries. You can check it out. Let's go get as close as we possibly can. How amazing is this? We're gonna do a retelling here in a few minutes.
It's obvious from Sarah's narrative about the history of this that since the mid-70s, nothing has been done to this. It's just been left to rot. And thankfully it's so dry out here that it's dry rot. I guess the wood's almost as good today as it was back then.
Yeah, and I just think it's incredible that we're standing right here in this amazing town. And if you look around the area, you can see that the dunes where they filmed it are a few miles this direction where the rim actually was. But outside of that, this area is still kind of untouched by a lot of stuff. Almost like it's just preserved in this rural area of California, and it's incredibly cool. It's just nuts to be here right where they were.
It's fantastic.
All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna do our retelling now. We've got our Long Islands, we're here on site. When was this aired?
April 7th, 1961, 65 years ago.
That's incredible. Season 2, episode 23 was written by Rod Serling, directed by the one and only Buzz Kulik, and I'm going to send it over to me for the intro narration. Yes, it's an Olancha.
Try finding that ball. It's in the desert somewhere.
The year is 1847. The place is the territory of New Mexico. The people are a tiny handful of men and women with a dream. 11 months ago, they started out from Ohio and headed west. Someone told them about a place called California, about warm sun and a blue sky, about rich land and fresh air. At this moment, almost a year later, they've seen nothing but cold, heat, exhaustion, hunger, and sickness. This man's name is Christian Horn. He has a dying 8-year-old son and a heartsick wife, and he's the only one remaining who even has a fragment of the dream left. Mr. Chris Horn, who's going over the top of a rim to look for water and sustenance. In a moment, we will move to the Twilight Zone. All right, we're gonna tag team this retelling right in front of the actual location. Who wants to start it first?
I'll take a run at it to begin with.
Let's do it, buddy. All right, let's do our 3 minutes on the shot clock.
Let's do it. So we have a small wagon train of 3 wagons in the middle of the desert. The lead wagon stops. Our hero, the star Chris, gets out of his wagon, goes to the back. His wife's in the back nursing their teenage son who's very sick. The other wagons stop. They approach him. They want to turn back. They want to go back to Ohio. They've been on the road for like 11 months. They're running out of water. They're running out of food. One of the wagons was destroyed by Indians earlier. So now they're wanting to turn around. He says, no, we got to go further. I'm going to take a walk over this rim and see what I can find. I'm certain that there's water or something right over the rim. He leaves the group, walks over the rim, climbs to the top of the rim, and what does he see?
Over the rim, it's just him in his stovetop hat and his big long gun. He comes over and he sees this. He sees a highway. He sees a highway and power lines, and he doesn't know what's going on. He comes down the hill, gets down the sand, goes over and he touches the road, and he's very concerned about what it is, and a semi-truck goes by and almost hits him. He freaks out because he's never seen a truck before, jumps into the ditch and accidentally shoots himself in the wrist. Then, while he's bloodied up and confused, he starts walking down the road. This exact road right over here is where he was walking down. Sorry to point in your face.
No, you're good.
Okay, go ahead.
So he sees a sign that says, the Airflite Cafe 1 mile. Walks to the cafes in the front of this building right here that's right behind us, and the owner of the cafe comes out, introduces himself, sees that this guy looks a little different with his long gun and his stovepipe hat, and invites him inside.
Really cool guy.
Sees that he's injured, and he says, you know what, my wife can take a look at that. She was a nurse previously. There's no one else in this cafe. So the wife comes out, starts tending to his hand, and the confusion on our star's face is obvious because he's never seen anything before. The guy hands him a glass of water. Mind you, he hasn't had a glass of clean water for a year.
Let alone see one come out of a tap. He watches him pour it, and he's like, what? So he gets the water and he drinks it, and he's like, what is going on here? So she starts cleaning up his hand, and he has all these questions about what's going on, and he's very confused. The acting is superb. So he starts asking him questions, and the lady brings out some penicillin tablets, right? Or I'm jumping ahead a little bit?
Yeah, she brings out the tablets for his injury.
And he goes, what is this? And he goes, medicine, it's for infection. And he goes, where did you get it? She goes, I got it at the drugstore. So the main guy, Joe, calls a doctor. No, he calls the sheriff, right?
He calls the doctor because the doctor's
first,
treating
and the doctor comes over, and he calls the sheriff later. So the doctor comes over and takes Chris Horn into another room, and Joe and his wife are kind of chatting about it, looking at this gun, and it looks like it's very new. It looks great, and he says it's been heavily used or whatever.
But it's only a year old. It looks a year old.
It's only a year old. So they're talking. Out of the back, the doctor comes through, and he goes, listen, his delusions seem real to him. Everything he said, have you seen his teeth? He has 2 fillings, and we don't do fillings like that anymore. They're starting to realize that there's something going on here.
So at that point, our hero, Chris, comes out of the back room holding a book. And he says, I'm not delusional, but I have been reading about this. And if you'll read in this book, it's an encyclopedia. He goes, here's my son.
He goes, Chris Horn Jr.
That's my son. And he was very famous because he was a pioneer in the study of
children's medicine.
Medications for illnesses, and especially penicillin and that type of thing. So at that point, he's talking to the doctor and to the owner, and he says, I've got to get back. And they said, well, I'm going to call the authorities because I want them to help you. He said, no, I don't want any help. I need to get back.
I don't know who they are.
Yeah.
So he's there, and they're like, wait a minute. They try to kind of restrain him a little bit. And he's like, no. I don't know what's going on here. And so Joe tries to kind of stop him in a good way, and he punches Joe in the stomach and hauls ass out this door, literally running down this
the highway.
exact street. Starts running. So the doctor has called the sheriff, and you see Joe running down with his gun in his hat. He crosses the street and goes up the sand berm, the rim that he went in before. Then the camera angle looks down, and there's a police car literally chasing him up the sand dune. And he's going over there, and he's running, and he reaches the top of the berm, the rim, and he looks back, and what does he see?
He sees his 2 other wagons behind him, and during that process of running, he drops his gun. And he drops the pills, but he picks up the vial of pills, leaves his gun behind. Goes down to his wife and to the others. First thing he says is, give our son 2 of these pills. Well, what is it? It's a medicine, it'll make him better. The others approach him and they say, what is there? What did you find? And he says, oh, how long have I been gone? And they said, well, you just left. Because the wife asked him, well, why did you come back? Did you forget something? Well, he thought it had been hours. In real time, it had only been 30 seconds or so. And so he tells them, we're not turning back. There is water over this rim.
My favorite line is when his friend goes, what's over there? And he goes, there's a lot more on the other side of that rim. And so he goes, my son is going to be good. And he gives him the pills and he's like, we need to go forward. I know that there's a spring this direction. He goes, we're going forward. And then the camera jumps back to 1960 where Joe and his wife are there with the sheriff, and they go back and the sheriff drops him off right here. Right here he drops him off, and he goes inside and he has the rifle, his long gun, and he shows his wife and she's like, what is that? And she goes, look, he dropped this, went over the rim and disappeared. The gun that looked like it was brand new. And she goes, it looks like it's been standing out in the desert for 100 years, which it had been. The butt comes apart, the wood, and they don't know what happens. And that's pretty much the end of arguably my favorite story, containing my favorite character, Chris Horn. He went into the future, didn't try to take advantage of anything, didn't want to stay. He saw that his son was going to end up being an important part of the future, took the pills and went back knowing that something good was going to happen, like he was meant to be there. I freaking love this episode.
This was great.
This is a hardcore 10 for me. If this was on the wheel, I believe that this would be a last call. So here we go, take another look at this building, see exactly where Chris Horn was
65 years ago.
And for our closing narration, send it back to me, Olancha Grant style. Mr. Christian Horn, one of the hardy breed of men who was headed west during a time when there were no concrete highways or the solace of civilization. Mr. Christian Horn and family and party headed west after a brief detour to the Twilight Zone. It's absolutely fantastic. Some interesting trivia about this. We've already done the trivia on this, but one of the things was the stovepipe hat was a very big, contentious, argumentative bit when they were making the episode because our main guy, Christian Horn, which is Cliff Robertson, very famous actor, had done the research and said that no, if he was coming from Ohio in 1846, he wouldn't be wearing a Stetson cowboy hat, he'd be wearing a stovepipe hat. And the argument was, that's gonna look stupid on screen. People are used to seeing wagon trains with cowboy hats. And he goes, I don't think so. Fought it. Rod Serling agreed and said, yeah, you can wear this hat. It came down, Buzz Kulick did not want to let him wear that hat. And then he said, I'm wearing this hat. And then Rod Serling said, hey, you're the star of this one, you can do it.
Not only did he wear the stovepipe hat, but the driver of the second wagon came off and he had a dusty stovepipe hat. And that driver is Gomez from the Addams Family.
Is that Gomez from the Addams Family?
Yep.
I didn't know that. That makes sense though. And then the Joe is actually wearing the Stetson kind of hat that Buzz Kulick wanted him to wear in the first place. So it's kind of a cool train. But anyway, this location is fantastic. Thank you again, Sarah, for explaining where we are. But this is one of the very few locations left that even remotely exists in the Twilight Zone world. We have taken the tour to the MGM lot, which is now the Sony Studio Tour. And at the beginning, they kind of ask like, hey, who wants to see something? Do you want to see stuff about Spider-Man? Do you want to see this? And we were there dressed like this saying, we want to see Twilight Zone stuff. And they were like, oh yeah, I think they filmed here. And Sarah and I were like, no, we know they filmed here, but they didn't know anything about it. They don't really know a whole lot about the Twilight Zone because I think they were filming so frequently there that it was just kind of a nonsense like,
that's why
Twilight
you
Zone
and
is
I
always there.
exist and this show exists, to bring people back to what was really important.
Yeah. So check this place out, the Airflite Cafe, Joe's. Here it stands in its total glory. Absolutely fantastic.
Very cool.
We're going to take this show on the road. We're not just ending it here. We have made the trip. We're making a 14-hour drive. We're now taking you to freaking Las Vegas to go to mini golf and see Dain, who we did an interview with before. So we're going to take this road and continue on driving through Death Valley into Las Vegas. But anyway, one last look at it before we let this thing go. The Airflite Cafe, here it is in 2026, looking exactly as it did. Come on, that fin at the top, isn't it so great? It just looks so good. Man, I'm kind of taken aback still by being here.
Yeah.
This is so cool to know that this is where it happens.
You see pictures of it, it's not the same thing as being here.
It is absolutely cool.
3 hours later.
All right, so we're here in our favorite place. This is the Twilight Zone Mini Golf here at the Horseshoe in Las Vegas. We're gonna go inside and see our friend Dain. You may recognize him from when he was on our show last time, and he's the freaking best. Let's go check this out. It's my favorite spot. Come on, let's do it. As you can see, we are back again. Let's see how Sarah does. Wait, you're doing it with your purse on? Don't you need to get ready? All right, Dad. First time through the door. Oh. Oh. Oh.
Too hard. Wait, no way. Oh. Okay, all right. That was not bad.
Okay, I didn't want to get stuck there, but that's fine.
All right, Dain, do it. The whole world is watching.
Okay,
Yes! At least I knew that it's harder than it looks.
yeah, hold on. There you go. There you go. Oh. You still got a straight shot. You're the closest one.
Makes you wonder, doesn't it? Where is this place and when? The answer is, it doesn't make any difference.
Can you say eggs?
Steve is.